Confidantes, can you believe I am starting this episode giving an ad for my very own book? That's right. I'm here to tell you guys that you can pre-order my first book. Don't fucking panic. The shit they don't tell you in therapy about anxiety disorders, panic attacks, and depression right now. You guys can get it at shop.catalog. I'm going to put the link below. They have some other really gorgeous books. I mean, that's what made me want to stick with them as a publisher. Their content is just gorgeous. It's relevant. It speaks to the soul. It's written by real people your age. You should check out all of their stuff. And of course, my book, Don't Fucking Panic, is filled with tons of exercises, stories, anecdotes, journal entries, coloring pages. It's got it all. It is long. It is something you can bring in the car with you, in your bag, in the purse, on an airplane, on a boat. I don't know what you're doing in your spare time. Bring it anywhere you want, because this book is meant to be written on, laughed in, cried upon, torn apart. It is a book that I truly made for you and your soul and your mental health. So get it now, pre-order it. The link is included below. Let's start the show. Normally, I would have like a 5-minute conversation with you and be like, hi, this is me and so nice to meet you, and like this is how it's gonna work. But I said fuck that, because we are truly strangers. Like I don't even know your name. All I know you as the political teen on TikTok. So like, first of all, what the fuck is your name?
Oh, my name's Gannon with a G, Gannon. I don't know how my parents came up with it. Yeah, I don't know how my parents came up with it.
Oh, I like
my
it.
name, though. Yeah, thank you.
But like, you're the political teen. You're like the famous TikToker.
Yeah.
Do you love or hate that you're like a famous TikToker?
It came out of nowhere. Like one day I'm just going on Omegle and I'm just talking with people about politics, and I'm like, let me upload a video. And I have a guy on TikTok. His name's Ilya. I'm gonna shout him out real quick because he inspired me to start. Yeah, so I'm gonna shout him out, and he's the reason I started posting the videos. So I posted my first video, and I'm with my friend in study hall, and I'm looking at my TikTok. I'm like, yo, this hit 40,000 views. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And then every time I check it, it's up 10K, up 10K, up 10K. And I'm like, all right, this is taking off.
Isn't that just like the craziest fucking feeling?
It was out of nowhere, man.
Okay,
out of nowhere.
I need to establish a few things first.
Sure.
How old are you?
I'm 15.
You are what?
Yeah, 15.
Hold on. I'm having a fucking existential crisis. You're 15?
Yeah.
Are you like a savant? Have you been like tested for your IQ and shit?
I took an IQ test maybe in 4th grade, and I think I was around average.
Wait,
like
okay.
For my age.
Oh my God. I definitely thought you were going to say like 1920 or something. Like, okay, let me like chill out and be a normal fucking person. Okay, so you're 15. That's cool. Where do you live?
I'm in Connecticut right now.
Okay,
Northeast.
So you're East Coast or Northeast. And your tag on TikTok is the political teen. You also do, is it pronounced Omegle or Meagle?
Some people say Omegle, some people say Omegle.
And you do Twitch too? Do you do live Twitch?
Yeah, I stream live on Twitch. Whenever I go live, I go on TikTok to, go on the calls for people to watch. And at that time, I also go live on Twitch at the same time.
Okay. So your handle is a political teen, the political teen. And the way I came across you came across on my For You page, and you basically debate for fun the most awful people on the fucking planet. Like for fun. Like that's what you do for fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let me preface this by saying this is an election special, Confidantes. This is the podcast where we're absolutely sure we don't know everything. And we'll all take a deep breath together, because tomorrow is the election, and I couldn't think of a better fucking guest to have on for this like little special episode than Gannon, aka the political team, because you blew my goddamn mind with the way you debate people. First of all, confrontation and debate is like the scariest thing to me, and especially when it comes to shit I don't know about. Like, there's nothing worse than being embarrassed or like wrong. I don't like being wrong. So therefore, I don't debate. I have to ask, what's your zodiac sign? Is it Libra?
I mean, I was born in June, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know it.
Oh. Wait, June what?
27.
I think that makes you a Cancer, which is really emotional, which is really
That's
weird.
me.
Because I would have guessed that you were a Libra because Libras like to debate and it doesn't affect them like at all. If someone yells at me, I fucking cry immediately. Like what you do is just so fascinating and cool to me. So like, I want to get into, before we get into what this episode's about, which is like, we're doing this political special because the election's going to happen tomorrow and I know it's going to be a clusterfuck and I want to get into it, all of that with you. But first tell me like how the fuck you got interested in politics.
Yeah, wild ride, man. And I'd say around 6th grade, I'm just scrolling through Instagram. I'm going on YouTube. It really started on YouTube. And on the algorithm, it just comes up, Ben Shapiro wrecking feminist liberals. And I press on that, and I'm like, what is this about? And it's some, college student talking to Ben Shapiro about systemic like sexism or something. And Ben Shapiro's saying like something super confident. Then a huge wrecked comes up on the screen. I'm like, oh, this guy's the shit. He is super cool. And that's how I got into it. I became a rock hard conservative without even knowing what it was about. I was all, stand for the pledge, worship the flag, respect the blue, love the military no matter what. That's how I got into it. Yeah, I know.
Gannon, what the fuck? Connecticut, though.
I know. I couldn't really control it.
Are your parents political?
They're not super political, but they don't lean, like, I'd call them the typical centrists. They're not going to vote for Trump, if that makes sense, but they're not like super into it like I am. Yeah.
Okay, because normally, I mean, you've said this on your TikToks. It's like kids just blind, and I say kids meaning like younger kids than you. I'm 30. Ew, fucking. I feel like creepy, but that aside, like kids really just regurgitate whatever the fuck their parents believe in. So you more got into the like the like confidence of a political debater.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you listen to Ben Shapiro talk and a bunch of these conservative guys, you can kind of hear the condescending tone whenever I talk to a dumbass. Like it just comes out because I got into that at a young age. Don't get it wrong. If I'm talking to somebody who's chill, who just wants to learn more, like we're having fun discussion, I'm not going to be a dick about it, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm debating somebody for real and they start saying some stupid stuff about some Black people or Hispanic people or something, I'm going to turn into an asshole.
Okay, are you white? Oh my God, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white. I just watched
I'm very Irish.
Oh, me too. I'm 100% Irish. I'm Darragh is my last name. So that's the other thing is like, so you're a straight white guy?
Mm-hmm.
Straight cis white guy who was a conservative in 6th grade, like gave a shit about politics. Now tell me like how you ended up where you are now.
Well, I went from so here was my thought process, right?
Okay.
I was automatically just distrustful of the big government because that's the ideology I was sworn into. So then I kind of realized, all right, so these Republicans who love the police and hate gun control. And I just started thinking to myself, so who's going to enforce the gun control? Well, it's going to be the police. So then I kind of moved down on the political spectrum, moved to the more libertarian aisle. And that I was maybe around there for 2 years, swaying between that, libertarian side and the conservative side. But then I just this year, I started looking into different ideologies. And what sparked was, if I'm so distrustful of a big government, why am I not being distrustful of these big corporations who own the capitalist world? And that's what kind of shifted me towards left libertarianism, which I stand for now.
I can't tell if I want to cry or if I'm like just shook. Like I didn't even know what libertarian meant until probably 2 years ago. Yeah. Like, do you just fuck shit up in your like history and government classes?
I'm very quiet. I mean, right now I have history first period. I'm half tired. I'm just writing down notes. I don't really say much.
Do people recognize you?
Yeah, it took the school by storm.
Yeah. So what grade are you in? You're in freshman?
10th grade right now.
Sophomore. Okay. And so people are like noticing you get big, and how's the reception? Is it like dope, or are people like, oh, I want to battle,
Yeah. I mean, my school is, I would argue it's kind of liberal. So most of the students in there are very positive what I'm doing. But there is a small group who are very, the whole Blue Lives Matter, stomp my flag, I'll stomp your ass. Like I catch a little bit dirty look sometimes, but it's whatever, man. People are going to like you. People are going to hate you. I just got to, do what I'm doing. It's fun.
Dude, that is such a fucking rare mentality for someone your age. Like, I was so focused on smoking weed and having sex that I like couldn't even tell you who the fuck was president when I was 15. So I genuinely can't tell you like how just like shocked and thrilled I am that people like you exist in the next generation, because you just sound so fucking smart. And that's the other thing
Thank
I
you.
wanted to bring up is like your cadence in your debate is so specific. Like what I like about you is I've never heard you yell. You've never like called someone a name, like a bad name. And I'm talking about like you have people coming on to your live to debate, dropping like the N word straight out the gate. And you are just like a fucking stone. And I'm like, no, I would have instantly start crying. So like,
Yeah.
tell me why you like to debate. What about it like
Um,
gets your juices going?
yeah. I mean, honestly, the reason that I like it so much is just I really love talking to people about things that I care about, like just natural conversations with people. And I inherently just love politics a lot. So whenever I can talk to somebody, whether they agree with me or disagree with me, if it's a conversation, I'm loving it. And if it's a debate where I can argue my stance and prove that I'm better, I love it even more, right? So that's kind of just where my love comes from it.
Do you take debate in school? Like, do they have a class like that?
They have a club for debate. I'm gonna be honest, I never even like opened up the debate papers with all the clubs. I
It's
mean,
like
nah.
you're kind of past that at this point, and I would feel really bad for anyone that would have to fucking debate you in
Yeah.
fucking high school. Anyway, do you have other in like hobbies that you're passionate about the way you are about politics?
Oh, nothing as much as politics, but I love playing poker. I love
Oh,
rap music, and I
oh
love
shit.
professional wrestling. Those are my all over the place.
Professional wrestling. Okay, you are like a stereotype of a 15-year-old guy that I would assume. I grew up in Tampa, Florida, which is a
All right.
very conservative, like leaning Republican, Southern, like hospitality. But professional wrestling is like, that's like the center of professional wrestling. Like my mom sold Hulk Hogan's house, and we share the same interior decorator as John Cena.
Holy crap!
And
That's dope.
I work with the Bella twins all the time because they're on E and I'm on the E show.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like I don't think they've done my podcast, but we've done a bunch of YouTube videos together and stuff. So I'm like
so cool.
surrounded by wrestling.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the first fucking thing about it. Like no idea,
So
which
cool.
is
Yeah.
I guess it's like a fun escapism for you. So you okay.
Yeah.
So you're not just like, this isn't your like life's like water hole, but you do spend a lot of fucking time doing this. Like anytime I go on TikTok, which is a lot, you're doing a live, like debating people. So how much time are you putting in a week doing this shit?
Yeah, I would say here's my schedule, right? I get on Omegle and I record for maybe an hour, and if a debate comes up, I'll record
What
the
time do you
entire
get up?
Like for school?
Or like what's your schedule? Like what time do you
Yeah. So sure. So I wake up around like 6:30, go to school. I have no time to record in the morning. So I just go to school, get done with my school, come home, and I'm free. So then I record from on Omegle from like maybe I'd say 4 to 5. So I get a bunch of content from there. I upload every hour, maybe it hits for you page, maybe it doesn't.
Wow.
And then anytime from like 6 to 9, I'll go on live. Not for too long, maybe like hour to 2 hours, whatever. Just get people in there, they can listen to me. And that's how it goes. And then other free times, like during school, I'm just always, whenever I have free time, I'm just researching different kind of things. Because, I just love it. I just love learning.
Okay, so that like kind of gets into transitioning from just like personally about you, but more into what I wanted this episode to be about, which is about like, how the fuck can you rub off on me a little bit? Like, how the fuck can I learn how to do what you do? I think I'm too emotional to be able to do what you do, but like you hit with hard facts. Like when you're debating someone, you sound like a computer. Because you're just like, blah, 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 blah. And the person's like, so how do you retain so much information? Do you take Adderall? I think you should be tested for some sort of brain study or some shit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Because here's the thing. Like, if I'm just like reading a random book, I won't remember anything that I read, like a book for English class. But if I'm passionate about something and that thing sticks with me, that certain statistic, that certain fact, I'm going to remember it forever. So then maybe it's just in the back of my head and somebody brings up a conversation. I'm like, I remember reading a statistic about that I can prove that you're wrong.
See, but like,
just pops up right away.
Is that photographic memory?
I wouldn't call it that because I definitely don't do very good on math tests with equations and stuff. So I don't think I have none of that. But I don't know. Something just pops up and it works.
Holy shit. Okay, so you research a lot, obviously, but with the news changing every fucking minute, like how are you able to keep up with what's happening? Because I feel like a lot of the right side of history likes to talk about history and like the old way the country was run, and you're really like showing people hey, that's like not how society is anymore. Like, wake the fuck up. Like, let me show you how the world really is. How do you keep up with everything that's fucking happening?
Yeah, it's I mean, as you know, a lot's going on, and I think it's important to like when you see all these news articles come out, when you see a bunch of different topics, like I'll read the article, I'll naturally form an opinion, and from there I move on. And if it matters, if it means something, if it inherently means something, I'll be able to use it in my debates, because that's the thing. If you're stuck to the past when you're debating, it's
Hmm.
nonsense. It's nothing. Like if something about Trump came out from 2016, disproven in 2018, I can't use that in the debate because I'm gonna look like
Right.
a fool. So you have to
Right.
constantly be aware of what's going on, be aware of what's been disproven, be aware of what just came out in the Supreme Court, whatever's going on, whatever the
Right.
issue is. You just got to be on top of it.
Are you afraid of people finding out who you are and like doxing you?
Oh, that's happened.
Really?
Yeah,
I got doxed once.
I've had Nazis call my house.
Shut the fuck up. What?
Yeah.
Are your
They don't
parents like,
like
Gannon and Nazis on the phone?
I'm telling the first time it happened, it was wild. And that's like that's when I really realized like, damn, my stuff is having an impact, because like Nazis call my house, call me a race traitor, saying, you're gonna be part of them when we have a civil war, like all this crazy kind of stuff. And that's when I realized like my words, these guys really think I have an impact on the youth, and they they don't want me influencing the youth, right? You know what I'm saying? So they're calling my
Yeah.
house, they're trying to threaten me, they're saying, I'll pull up, I'll do
Oh.
all this to you, I'll do this and that. And
Oh my God. Do you get like, are your parents worried?
yeah, it's hard because at some point, like, they're cowards, right? Like maybe some Nazis will watch this because they follow my TikTok, but like they're
Mm.
cowards. And I mean, constantly look back on history: KKK burning down houses, people going up to Martin Luther King's houses and threatening him and his kids, people going up to Malcolm X's houses, people
Mm.
going up to Malcolm X's work, his churches, and just threatening him, but they never do anything.
They're
So that's the thing.
fucking, yeah.
I have to be alert of what's going on,
Hmm.
but at the same time, I can't let them stop me from trying to spread the message that I'm trying to send. It's
And
a,
I
it's
think,
it's a nice little middle.
yeah, because it makes them look like an asshole too, because you're so like, I don't want to say kind the way you do your shit, but like you really don't engage in the fuckery of the emotional side of it. Like you
Yeah.
get passionate about things you're talking about, and it's because you're frustrated that they don't get it. Like that's the only time I really see your emotional side come out. So I just realized like you can't even vote.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not close to voting.
Okay, well, I obviously voted Biden. Hello, I'm like a
Good.
very
Yeah.
liberal snowflake,
Yeah.
LA entertainment motherfucker. All the like Black Lives Matter, LGBT
Yeah.
plus, like I have all the issues that I feel like I'm on the right side of history. But because we're recording this and it's gonna come out the day before the election, we don't know which way it's gonna go. Now, what do you think is going to happen?
I was talking with some friends last night, and I'm seeing something bad happening. Here's
Oh
what I think happens.
fuck.
I think that the mail-in ballots are just going to take a longer time to count than the in real life votes for obvious reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think naturally, because liberals and Democrats care more about COVID and care more about the science behind the things, they're less likely to vote in real life, and more likely to use the mail-in ballots than the
Mm-hmm.
Republicans are. So if
Mm-hmm.
all the votes are being counted, all the Republicans are being counted first, all their votes, I feel like
Ooh.
10 o'clock, Trump gets on TV and says, "I won." The
Yeah.
mail-in ballots take 2 more days to count, and now Trump says he wins. Oh no, it has to go to the Supreme Court. Oh shit, who rules the Supreme Court right now?
Fucking
Like
Republicans.
worst case scenario, but if Trump's been setting the seeds a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Just
Yeah.
tiny little.
And we haven't heard from either camp about like conceding or like accepting recognition, because didn't that happen with like Gore and Bush, where some like Gore conceded and then he took it back and then he went back. It was the whole like hanging Chad thing. I'm from Florida, so I remember just getting a fuck ton of shit about that. But like,
Yep.
can they legally claim to be a winner on November 3rd?
I remember a reporter asked Trump, "Will you peacefully make a
Right.
peaceful transition of power if you lose?" He says, "We'll see what happens," and that's when I realized, like, what's going on here.
Are you afraid of like a civil war?
Um, I can't say that I'm afraid. I feel like something has to happen at some point. And I'm not calling for violence. I'm not calling for revolution or anything. I'm just saying
No,
at some
right.
point your society is going to become so fed up with what's going on. They're so fed up with the power at being what they're doing to your society. Something's going to happen. And my generation is being so more invested into politics than in
Yeah.
the past because of technology, because of social media.
Right.
All of our voices being spread. I don't see a civil war happening at all. I just see power being changed and different kind of hands being put into it in the next 50 years.
Because they've already said like how many young votes have already been counted as like 2 or 3 times the amount in 2016. So it really is like Oh God, but they always say like you don't know how those teens are voting, which does scare me because again, being from the South, every time I go home, I see like really the bubble I live in here in LA because I go home and there's still kids that are fucking listening to their parents and Fox News and all that shit. So, okay, so the election technically it's tomorrow when this comes out. We don't know which way it's going to go. But what I love about whoever picked the fucking election date is it comes right before the holidays when you have to go hang out with your fucking parents and your racist uncle and your fucking anti-women aunt. Like, do you have fun at Thanksgiving wrecking people's lives? Or is that like, are people like, please don't invite Gannon this year?
I mean, I think most of my family is liberal. Most of them are liberal, but I just think the way they grew up, most of them are very patriotic. Most of them are very nationalistic. So when I bring up, if something comes up, I never want to like just outright act like how I act on TikTok because obviously what's the point?
Yeah.
So, but if something does come up, like I remember on 4th of July, we're all talking about how, you know, when America declared independence, like women weren't free, Black people weren't free. And I just brought that up and I got shit for that. And then my cousins, 2 girls were like backing me up on it. They're very liberal too. And it turned into, it wasn't like terrible. Like nobody was throwing food at each other. Nobody was like storming out. It was a nice little debate. But yeah,
God.
Nothing terrible happens at Thanksgiving. It can get a little awkward though.
I was going to say, is it like your parents being like, Gannon, please just fucking let us be?
Yeah, 100%. That is my mom 1,000,000%.
That's
like, even the thing
same.
Is, yeah. All right. So here's the thing. So if a conversation ever strikes up about politics or anything, my mom will always just be in the corner like, shh, stop, settle down. Don't let it spread. Like, don't escalate it, you know? Just be quiet.
That like genuinely, my family like is like yours. Like, you know, people didn't vote Trump, but they didn't also my dad voted for like Gary Johnson 4 years ago. So that I just don't fucking know. But it's the same thing with my family where we have to make like a no politics rule. But I always argue like, dude, at this point in time, if you're able to do like a no politics rule at your dinner table, like you're inherently privileged, you're ignoring the State of the Union, and you are also living in a position where you're basically saying like, I don't think it's important to talk about like the livelihood and lives of other people that aren't like us. And so do you have some advice maybe for listeners who are going to be around people this holiday season that just are fuckwads, you know, with their facts and their bravado? Like, do you have any advice on how to deal with people like that?
So if you're at a table with people and you're just talking with them, you don't want to make a fool of, you know, your drunk uncle because he's just gonna get mad at you. He's gonna start insulting you. He's gonna start doing this, start doing that. So it definitely depends on the environment. But if it's like 4 o'clock and you're just talking about politics, then you can bring up your own arguments. And if they say, you know, something about the unemployment rate, I would recommend, you know, just doing a little research on how did the economy that Trump, because I'm telling you, if you bring up Donald Trump, they're going to talk about the economy. So just do a little bit of research on how Trump inherited one of the tightest markets of all time, how Obama made the unemployment rate go from 10% to 5%, and Trump inherited an economy with only a 5% unemployment rate. You can't mess that up. So bring up these little kind of things, and you bring these little kind of things up, and people around you, like, I think it's important if the apolitical kind of people that don't really care yet,
Right.
if they're around you and they just hear these little bits of information that you're spreading, that can kind of set the seeds for them talking with him in the future.
Well, that's what I was going to say is how much I've learned from your TikTok. Like, I would highly recommend every listener go watch just like, you know, the minute-long videos where you really give like digestible information. You don't talk in a way that's like, I can't understand. You really talk in a really like, understandable manner. I guess, like, have you ever been wrong?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the time, I 100% I can be wrong. If somebody proves me wrong, I'll say, yeah, that's a good point, man. And I'll think about a way to rebuttal it in the future.
What's like an example?
Shoot. So I was just talking with, I think I was talking with a socialist, and at this point I wasn't a complete socialist. And I brought up how under socialism, innovation when it happened, nobody would have the incentive to innovate. And he brought up how if we look in the past history, all of our enlightened thinkers, the people who created mathematics, the people who created language, all these different kinds of people, their survival needs were set. They were not worried about these things. And on the time, they didn't even have a huge market. So he brought up how naturally the human brain will always want to innovate and always want to advance, even if money and even if profit isn't a thing. And he brings up specific examples like the U.S. military creating the GPS, like the USSR creating the first iPhone, these different kind of things. I'm like, damn, man, that's a good point. So I looked that up and I found out he was right. And, I gave it to him.
You guys, That's what I'm fucking talking about. Like, did you just hear? Like, the way you retain information is so interesting to me. Okay, I'm gonna stop being like wowed and complimenting you and just get down to some like useful tidbits that the listeners can do. So I'm gonna pretend to be a Trump person, and I'm gonna bring up some issues that I wrote down about things I've heard just from either like your TikTok or Fox News or whatever, and I want you to respond in a way that would be natural for you, and hopefully the confidantes can gain a little bit of insight on maybe like how they can respond to issues like this. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, we're on Omegle. Here we go. I sign on.
All
I'm
right.
like, yo, man.
What up,
Fucking
man? How are you?
COVID is a scam. It was created by the Chinese government.
Yeah, why do you think that?
Because my dad said so, and he watches Fox News.
I mean, that's a great point, man. But come on, think about it. We're the only first world country which couldn't handle this virus. If China was targeting us, then how come all these countries got infected and we're the only country where it spread to millions and millions of people and other people were able to retain it?
Maybe because China wants to take over the world, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because China gets so many resources, so much money from America. And we get so many jobs from China. And we have all these trade agreements. That's why China wants to kill us, right? Because they're making a lot of money off of us and we're making a lot of money off of them. They just randomly one day decided, all right, let's kill our agreements. Let's destroy America because that's what will help our economy.
Okay, but masks don't work. Why should I wear a mask?
All right, man, you try blowing out a candle with a mask on. Let me know what happens. Do it right here for me. Do it right here for me.
Okay, okay, here's another one. Ready?
All right.
Yo, all lives matter.
Why do you think every life matters?
Because black people, what's the one I keep hearing on your TikTok? Black people only account for 11% of the population, but fucking 40% of the crime or something like that.
Yeah, man, but if you look at it, most violent crime and most crime in general stems from socioeconomic displacement. So if we look at these communities in the 70s and the 80s, these black populations with redlining, with gerrymandering, they didn't have as much output within our political system. Presidents didn't care about them. Governors didn't care about them because they were at such a low socioeconomic standing. Nobody cared about them. Nobody was given the opportunities in the small business and in the middle class. So they had to resort to crime. They had to resort to the drugs. And that's when this all happened. That's when the mass incarceration cycle started. So then politicians were able to use that as an excuse for the police start over-policing the black communities. So of course that mass incarceration cycle happens. And that's why you say, they commit 46%, they commit over 50% of crimes. I'll tell you, man, only 3 to 5% of black people commit a violent crime in their life. If you want to make it seem like black people are just this violent and murderous race, statistically you're wrong. We don't have a violent crime issue in this country, man. Only 5% of arrests are for violent crimes. 95% of them are for non-violent crimes. So if you want to make the argument we have a violent crime issue, go ahead. But I'll let you know, man, the black race is not a violent race.
Okay, but I don't know how anyone can even fucking respond to you after saying shit like that. But what if they go like, okay, but Biden wants to take away prisons or release all these drug dealers from prisons?
And I wish Biden would want to do that. I wish he was as radical as you guys made him seem. I wish he was this guy who wanted to defund the police and abolish the prison industrial system. I wish he was this radical leftist. Instead, he's the typical neoliberal Democrat. He's not going to do all these things you guys are trying to scaremonger the public with. Like, chill out, man. He doesn't. The biggest thing he's talked about is getting all the police chiefs together and getting all the civil rights organization leaders together and getting them in a room and having a conversation. So just chill out with all your fear mongering.
Okay, but Biden has amnesia and he's gonna die soon. And then what? It's gonna be Kamala and AOC and all these fucking women. That's who's running his political jargon anyway.
And man, I mean, Biden was born with the stutter. I think he fights it very good. I think when he's up there, he gets his points across, even with dealing with the stutter. He's only 3 years older than Trump. So if you're worried about Biden dying in office, I naturally should be worried about Trump dying too, because 4 years, man. Just think logically about the math.
Yeah, but Trump got over COVID because he's so healthy.
I mean, best doctors in the world, best hospital in the world. I would argue he got horse steroids.
That makes a lot of sense about his tweeting afterwards. Okay, but what do you say? What about Kamala? She's so liberal and she's like way more left than Biden is. If anything happens to him, then we're basically gonna have like the liberal snowflake party running the country. You want that?
I mean, what does Kamala propose that is so radical in your opinion?
Good question.
Nothing.
She's my internet sucks. Okay, here's another one. Okay, ready? Yo, man. fucking Biden took money from Ukraine.
I mean, think about it, man. Hunter Biden getting all these scandals. Right now, we have to focus on the issues for our public. Trump, Biden, let's say they're both corrupt politicians. We've dealt with corrupt politicians for the longest time. I'm not the first guy who's going to say Biden was my first choice. I'm not going to say that. But what we can look at is we can look at direct policies, and we can look at how are these people going to impact the average day American. Let's agree that they're both corrupt. Who's going to help the country more? And then we can talk about that.
Oh shit, that's actually a really good point. I like the other thing that you do where you ask like, how has your life improved under Trump's leadership, and people are always like, oh, that's right, I'm in like more debt than I've ever been, I'm sicker than I've ever been, I'm more depressed and angry than I've ever been.
What Trump do for you, man?
Yeah, can you kind of like in layman or like explain like I'm five what the fuck the Ukraine shit is about that everyone's talking about?
Yeah, so far it's just a conspiracy about Hunter's emails and what he's emailing about. They just got the computer that supposedly he started this pyramid scheme with a businessman where, they had this deal with Ukraine. Personally, there's not a lot of information you can find out about it. There's a reason it hasn't been brought to court yet. And right now it's just one of the baseless conspiracy theories. If more comes out about it, I'll be the first to talk about it. But right now I can't really give an informed opinion, know how much little information we have.
That's a good way of also responding to shit that you don't like want to talk further about. It's like I don't know enough information, but like I'll get back to you. But
yeah, 100%.
Also, what the fuck does Biden's son have anything to do with like what? So what if he took money? Like, what does that have to do with Biden? Do they say there's like a connection?
They say that since Biden didn't do anything about it, then he's inherently corrupt as well. And to that, I would say, one, what son is going to tell his own dad that he's doing something illegal? Two, if Biden was involved, knowing how much political, relevance he has right now, why wouldn't this come out earlier? Three, even if Biden's involved, again, stay on top about the policies and what's going to happen and let that happen later.
Okay, I got another one. Okay, I'm going to be a girl this time. Hi, Omegle. What do you have insurance? Are you on your parents' insurance?
Right now I am on my parents' insurance.
Okay, and how would you feel if the liberals just took that away and you didn't have insurance anymore?
Yeah, how are the liberals going to take away my insurance, man?
Because they want universal health care.
Yeah, but I'm an American citizen, so I think I would be covered under that plan. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, but fucking, I don't get this argument. What the fuck are Republicans arguing about healthcare?
They're arguing that universal healthcare the quality would go so far down that people just wouldn't be able to get insured. And we look at all these European countries, Scandinavia, Sweden, Denmark, look at their healthcare systems with their single payer plan. The quality is good. You could argue it's even better than here. And if you look at the evidence around the world, that's what conservatives do. They're like hyper focusing on the bad examples of what's happened and hyper focusing on the way things have been, because they're scared to look at the world and look at what other places are doing with the same kind of economy we have and seeing how we could apply it here. They're scared of looking at change and seeing how our country can become better if we adapt these policies that happen around the world.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions, was like, how do you keep up with also like other countries' fucking politics? Because that seems complex.
So I think if my ideology and what I care about, like more money for the middle class, more social welfare, these kind of steps that we can get to a better economic system, I look at countries who are implementing these kind of policies and I stay up to date with what's going on there, because you have to care about the countries that are doing the things that you want to see and how is it happening there, because you have to care about what's actually happening when your ideology is applied in real life.
But so do they compare population in that like regard, right? Because I totally think
that's important. That's important. 100%. You have to be able to understand that if you're looking at a certain study, a certain research topic, are they looking at the population proportion? Are they looking at how dense the current city is when they go to the doctor's office if we're talking about healthcare? Right. Are they talking about the amount of doctors they have? Are they talking about how much money is actually being funded to the healthcare system? How valuable is their currency? All these different kind of things, you have to pay attention to them. And luckily, I mean, that's just something I do because I don't want to look like a stupid idiot if I talk to somebody who's intelligent on Omegle. So,
right. Well, because I deal with a lot of chronic health issues, I have to always see specialists, and it's so fucking expensive. And like, I have private insurance right now, but like, I do have this weird fear, and it's maybe because I grew up in like such a Republican town, that if we did have universal health care, like I would lose access, or I would get put in a long line to see these specialists. And kind of right now, unfortunately, the way I'm able to get in at these places is because I can pay for it. And so like, I do weirdly fear, does that make sense? Like, I weirdly fear that if
No, it's a
that happened?
it's a natural distrust of the government. Anything that they do, it's going to be worse than the private market doing it. What I'd say
Right.
to you, I think for every story you have about getting good insurance because of the private corporations, I have a lot of other stories from friends who are on the same economic standpoints of me, and they have a private corporation. They have to call their doctor's office, then they send them over to the private health insurance. They send them back, have the fax files. That ends up 2 months waiting time, right? When we
Yeah.
look at these other countries, how long are the people actually waiting for? If you have a serious illness like you have, they're not waiting as they're. I would, if you want to look at Sweden, look at how they handle chronic illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
Go right ahead, because I'm
I've
telling you, you would not be disappointed.
I genuinely have considered going there to get treatment actually because they're doing some fucking revolutionary shit. And is Sweden also, I don't know if I'm wrong. What's the country that does any country use UBI, universal basic income?
I don't think any country has done it for any long amount of time. I think some countries can have some system with it. I mean, uh, you can look it up.
Do you believe in
But
you doing UBI for America?
yeah, I think UBI would be a great start. I mean, as a socialist, I inherently just want to abolish capitalism at some point, but I wouldn't really. That's a long
Fuck
conversation.
yeah.
But I think these small little steps like UBI, like more money to stimulate the lower and middle class, these small steps to make sure that the people who are born into capital and born into wealth have less political say and have less say over the global market, giving more power into the hands of the average American. I think these are all great steps that could happen.
And so that leads me
100%.
to my next like character, like, Trump wants to keep my money in my pockets and Biden wants to take it all for taxes. Like my parents worked hard for their money. Why should they have to be giving it all away? They grew up poor and now they're rich. Let them stay rich.
Yeah, man. I mean, Biden only wants to raise the marginal tax rate on people making over $400,000. Do your parents make over $400,000?
Let's say in this instance, yeah, they do. Let's say they
All right.
do.
Yeah, they do make over $400,000. So with that money, Biden wants to raise the marginal tax rate from 32% to 38%. So that's a 6% increase. Your parents, with that money, they're going to fund better education programs for inner cities. He's going to fund more social, more job opportunities for people inside of different socioeconomic communities. He's going to care about, and think about it. If your dad owns a business or something, if more people, if the general population is smarter, if the general population has more of a say and is just overall a better worker for your dad, the overall market's going to work. If you want to look back on history, and you want to look at other presidents who have raised the marginal tax rate on the top 1% higher than what Biden's done, and you want to look at how the middle class has been stimulated, which will end up helping your dad if he's in the top 1%, then go right ahead. But my argument is that if Trump continues to cut the taxes on the top 1%, that has disastrous effects. It has companies just, one, buying back into their own company for stocks. It has companies sending jobs overseas because they want to hoard the wealth even more. We can look at Wells Fargo, who got a crazy tax decrease. And in the pandemic, when they got that decrease, not in the pandemic, but in 2017, they laid off 20,000 workers. They sent corporations to China, and they ended up not even hiring anybody. You want to look at the biggest corporations in America and look at what they did after they got the tax decrease. None of it helped the American economy. That's why the one argument that Trump supporters had, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, I think it was, or 2018, they want to say that that's the reason the unemployment rate is so low. I'm saying, hell no, it's not. You want to look at the projections for how low the unemployment rate was supposed to hit before Trump even got nominated to become the president. You want to look at how Obama's market was supposed to impact the market in 2018. It hit the record that it was going to hit anyway. So I would say if he was the reason that the unemployment rate hit that low, that Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, then hypothetically, shouldn't the number got below what people were already projecting if that act worked? But it didn't, because the 1%, they're not going to reinvest the money back into the market, because we looking back American history, trickle down economics has never worked once, because why would the 1% want to invest back into the market when that's not guaranteed profit? What is guaranteed profit is a lower tax rate. And that's money they can keep. That's money they can hoard for their family. That's money they can invest back into their corporation with stocks. You want to look at what Jeff Bezos did? You want to look at what these other billionaires did? Go right ahead. I can give you articles if you want.
Fucking shit, man. Are you sweating? Because I'm fucking sweating after that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, that's the conversation I have like 10 times a day at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you recognize like a cycle of the same kind of fucking argument and questions.
It's the same rhetoric every time.
What would you say are like the top 3 things that you hear over and over again?
It's unemployment rate, it's Black Lives Matter, and it's socialism.
What? Okay, don't judge me. What the fuck is socialism exactly?
So yeah, socialism, the ideology is where the workers own the means of production. So we look at Bernie Sanders. He's somebody who wants more welfare policies. That's not socialism. That's a form of capitalism called democratic socialism, which is trying to humanize capitalism, make capitalism better. The socialists, they want to abolish capitalism. They want to make it so we inherently understand that private ownership over the means of production being anything that creates capital, factories, businesses, these kind of things. The private ownership of these means of production, that's not what we want. If our system, if our country is supposed to be ran democratically, then why isn't there democratic actions at the workplace? Why does the capitalist up top of the workplace have so much authoritarian power over the worker, and the worker gets no say in what happens? While some little amount of people up top, the people who invest into the stock, they get a say in what happens. They get a say in where the profit goes, where the corporation goes, who gets laid off, the people investing their capital that they already have into the company. Well, how about the people who work there? How about the workers that are actually producing the profit for the capitalist? Why are they just given a wage and the capitalist takes all the surplus value while the worker there, he doesn't have any say in what happens? So socialists would argue that if the means of production are publicly owned, and when I talk about socialism, conservatives are like, oh, so you want the government involved in everything? But they don't understand that socialism is the most democratic ideology possible, because if we had a socialist economy, me and you, we would be a part of that government and deciding what happens. It's not like America where this government up top is like this big government that's just deciding what happens. Like everybody is inherently involved within the government and within what goes on. And different socialists would argue for either more centralized forms of government, like one national government. Other socialists like myself would argue for more local forms of government, more decentralized forms of government. So the working class can have a more I would say local say in what happens. But yeah, that's just different kind of things. It's getting rid of that private ownership over the means of production within the economy. And it's a long process.
When you were saying that, I was thinking though, like, do I want all these fucking assholes I know involved in like making decisions for America? Because I get it. We already have a bunch of assholes running the government for America. But like, is it worrisome? Like, are we intelligent enough to run our own society?
Yeah, I mean, what we see right now is capitalism. It's the economy for the 1%. It's democracy for the 1%. The 1% owns the government. So if we want to talk about assholes and billionaires and greedy people, right now, our lives are being ran by billionaires. I would rather have if we trust our economy to vote, I mean, if we trust our country to vote, make decisions for the president, why shouldn't we also trust our people to be knowledgeable enough to make decisions about our basic needs and our basic means of production? Like if everybody had one vote, like for example, say socialist economy set up, different socialists have different says over how it should be ran. But this is a long process, right? I would argue the first thing we can do, implement more worker cooperatives. If more businesses are publicly owned, there's a whole list I have of amazing worker cooperatives around the world where the ownership inside of a company isn't the capitalist up top making all the decisions, but it's all the workers depending on how much value you put into the business, how much labor you put into the business. It's this idea that democracy should be inside of the workplace as well, where workers should be able to decide what happens, how much time do each people work, what happens with the profit, where the profit all doesn't go to the capitalist, but they democratically decide how much does each person get. So if they democratically decide the janitor should get like maybe 5% of the profit, and the person working 8 hours a day making like the tables or something should be getting 30% of the profit, and all the other carpenters should be getting like 20% of the profit as well. It's this idea that they can democratically decide that. It's not the capitalist who has all the negotiating power that's telling you either work for me or you starve. And it's this idea of, if we understand that democracy works for our public election system, why shouldn't democracy be able to work inside of the workplace, inside of our markets?
Man, you got me on that one. I don't fucking know. It seems like a lot of work. Do you think in your and I's lifetime we'll see something like that happen?
I mean, that if you ask any Marxist, which is, I know when I say Karl Marx, people automatically just,
freak out.
Communism, scary. Yeah. If you talk to any Marxist, they don't know how quick a revolution is going to happen. They don't know how quick are people actually going to rise up. Some people say they want a revolution of the working class, of the proletariat gaining the means of production. Others say we can do it through things like market socialism, the thing I just described. We can do it democratically. We can do it peacefully. I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime, but I really think conversations like this and spreading the knowledge on social media is a great start into different ideologies. And for anybody listening, if you want to learn more about market socialism, I 100% recommend looking up somebody called Richard Wolff on YouTube. He does amazing lectures in front of colleges. He's one of the leading Marxists in America. He's gone on Fox News and debated, Fox News millionaires about market socialism. If you want to learn more about it, definitely listen to him, because he's what got me into this ideology.
I would love to include like a bunch of links and shit that you can give me, just for people that like want to get more involved, because I think politics is so scary, and it really is like a straight white man's game. And what really hits me is like, you give a shit about people that aren't like you or look like you, and that's just such a unfortunately rare fucking thing that happens these days. We've already been recording for 45 minutes, which is fucking mind-blowing to me, because I could sit here all day and just like listen to you. I literally made my partner watch every single one of your TikToks the other night, and he was like, "Oh, okay, cool, I get it." And I was like, "No, watch this one." And he was like, "Okay, do I have to keep? I get what you're like telling me. I get it." And I'm like, "Yeah, but watch this one. Oh, he like fucks this guy up." Like, just watching you gently own people is like my favorite new thing to watch on TikTok. But I guess like winding down, right? Let's say like the election happens and it maybe goes a certain way in Trump's favor, God forbid. What is our world gonna look like for the next 4 years?
Well,
Because then you'll be able
I
to
mean,
vote.
yeah. I think automatically we see Obamacare, it's out. Affordable health care, it's out of there. We also see, I'm really scared about gay marriage. I'm really scared about same-sex marriage within the Supreme Court. And I'm really scared about Trump's continuing just disavowing and saying that systemic racism isn't real and just ignoring the issues we have within our police force. I think if he continues this rhetoric of not listening to a huge part of the nation that wants the leader of our country to talk about something, the division is only going to get greater and greater. The alt-right is continuing to get greater and greater. And at some point, it's just going to boil over. We cannot have a leader who is so dead set on being more egotistical and narcissistic than listening to what the people want him to talk about. Because, I mean, people realistically know he's not just going to agree with every policy that Black Lives Matter wants to pass. And we also know Biden doesn't agree with all of them, but at least Biden mentions them. At least Biden says, you know, I hear you, I see you, I want to talk about it. If I'm president, I'll talk about it, I'll listen to you guys. Trump, he never plans on doing that. He gets up there, he insults people who disagree with him based on their looks. He literally feeds into the conservative notion of the male and the white male having so much power within society that they can just make fun of everybody and nothing happens because of it. I mean, we look time and time again at all these things he says, all the things he does, no repercussions because of his power. We cannot have a leader like that for the next 4 years. And if we do, a lot of things are going to happen. One, the third world and developing countries are just going to continue to go down and down because he does not care about Latin American countries. He does not care about developing Middle Eastern countries. He does not care about their markets. He wants to take all of our corporations. He wants to bring them there for their slave labor, for their child labor. He wants to use that labor for our American profit. And I'm not saying Biden does or doesn't. I'm saying Biden would rather talk with countries and Biden would rather listen to the United Nations and listen to more peace, economic trade deals. Trump, he's so focused on America first that he just ignores the entire world. And that's just something I completely disagree with because I just don't understand how you can only care about people who were just luck of the draw born in America.
Yeah, and that's a great point that I didn't get to ask about. So sorry, I'm going to keep you for a couple more minutes. But like being from Florida, I hear a lot about the Hispanic vote. And to me, like when I think about what's happening with the Hispanic like culture with like the division and Trump wanting to build the wall, I've heard two kind of sides of the coin. It's like, yes, like the Hispanic vote is usually historically very conservative because they based on like religion, they're primarily Catholic. He believes in like pro-life. They tend to as well. And also that something about building a wall at the border would make things safer and therefore changing the way that people have to come into the country. Like it's like a long run game. And I just don't understand why the Hispanic vote would lean Trump in my brain. Like I can understand why 2016 the white women did because it's like they just listened to the fucking man and their family. And it's like, yeah, we have a lot of work to do this year. And I think we're hopefully rising to the occasion. And then I was like, wait, Hispanic women, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot about how the Hispanic culture naturally leans very traditional, very conservative. And I would say time and time again that social media and technology can change that. But I think if you see somebody up there, Donald Trump saying, you know, I care about every American. I don't care what race you are, but I care about American. I care about protecting you. No matter your race, you're naturally going to be drawn to that. And if your culture is already very traditional, very conservative, you're going to lean that way anyway. And then you bring up the border wall, and then you talk to these Hispanic people who also argue for lower taxes, right? They argue for the government to, you know, care more about the national debt, care more about our fiscal side of politics. So then you talk to them and you say, so how come the border wall is costing more money than illegal immigrants and I'm costing America anyway? If you add up the total amount of money illegal immigrants cost in deportations, sending them to jail, welfare, healthcare, all these different kind of things, you add all that money up and statistically the wall costs more. So you talk to people and you're like, if you really care about the fiscal side of things, you should understand how immigration as a whole boosts our economy. Immigration as a whole brings different cultures, brings more diversity to the marketplace of ideas as well. And the border wall it won't work because one, we haven't seen a deterrent of drug crimes. We haven't seen a deterrent of violent crimes. Immigrants don't bring a lot of violent crimes statistically. And if you bring these concepts up, I think they'll be able to listen, you know?
Damn. Yeah. And I guess like the other thing I hear all the time is like, well, if America's so fucked up, why are people still trying to come here? America's the greatest country in the world. And you're like, and I never know how to answer that because it's like, obviously I live here. I love this country.
You know.
Yeah. How the fuck do you respond to that shit?
All right. You let them know. Right now, our military is deployed in 86 different countries. We have bases in 86 different countries. We completely destabilize their world economies. We destabilize Cuba. We destabilize Venezuela. We destabilize Mexico. We destabilize multiple different Middle Eastern countries because of our military power and because of how valuable the US dollar is. These people are left with no other choice than coming to the one country who, one, has an immigration policy that lets people in, and two, this is set up by design where we are able to destroy multiple different countries and destroy these economies and implement military coups when they're trying to set up their own government. They have no other option but to leave, because now you have authoritarian dictators, or you have civil wars. You have all these different kind of things that is because of America's military power. You look at Vietnam in the 80s. You look at Cuba in the 90s. You look at all these different examples. You can look at Iran in the 50s. You can look at all these different examples of America destabilizing these countries and their citizens leaving and going somewhere else. And that's why, if you look at where these immigrants are coming from, they're coming from the countries that we destabilized in the first place. So you can't be against illegal immigration, but being also pro an $800 billion military budget, if that makes sense. And that's what you bring up.
Oh, I can't wait to use that this Thanksgiving. Okay, do you take this as a compliment or an insult when I say that you talk like a politician?
I hope the content, I hope my honesty isn't like a politician, but I can understand how my tone and how I'm trying to persuade people, that is like a politician. I understand that.
Because, as a socialist, would you say that you want to run for, do you want to be in government in a way that is more traditional than what you see for the future?
I don't know yet.
I think you kind of have to after...
Maybe, yeah. Famous. I know. I would love to start doing real life debates, and I would love, once this pandemic is over, I would love to have real life debates at college campuses, setting up a little table. Anybody wants to come and talk, I think that would be a great option. In the future, though, when I'm able to run for office, it's a maybe. I'm young. I don't know yet. We'll see what happens.
And do you have any siblings or anything? Or are you only child?
Yeah, I got one brother.
And does he understand politics the way you do, or does he not?
He understands what's going on, but he's not as invested as I am.
Okay, well, you have to keep an eye on that one, because isn't it always the brother that fucks up your political chances at running, right? I've seen enough TV dramas. You better make sure he stays high and tight and start working on that shit now.
I'll keep an eye.
Okay, start erasing all your internet history, hide all your skeletons in the closet. Gannon, this was so fucking cool. I was really excited for this. I'm so grateful that you were able to take a little bit of time to do all this shit. Where can the people follow you and learn more and watch you and all that shit?
I'm Apolitical Teen, no spaces, none of that. On every social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'll be making a YouTube soon. Just look that up. You'll be able to follow me, look at my content. Every follow counts. Comment, like, share it. Get involved with the discussion. Thank you. Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay, confidantes. That was a mind fuck. I hope by now you've already voted. And if you haven't, you're going in to vote. So stay safe, all that shit. Gannon, we're going to have to have you back in January or something, when shit kind of either hits the 100%. Fan or boils 100%. Down. So thanks so much, and I'll fucking see you 100%. On TikTok.
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye, you too.